Hello everyone and welcome to today's lesson on fossil fuels and pollution. I'm Mrs Jennison and I'm an Associate Director of Science for Outward Grange Academies Trust.
Before we start, it would be really useful if you could turn off your notifications. This way you won't be distracted throughout the lesson. It would also be useful if you had a pen and a piece of paper to hand so you could complete the tasks throughout the lesson.
This lesson is one of the lessons in our Saving Planet Earth topic. Previously in this topic we have looked at the structure of the Earth and atmosphere, what fuels need to burn and how we can become more fire safe. In today's lesson we will be looking at how burning causes pollution. Our challenge for today is to be able to describe the pollutants produced from burning, and our aspire is to be able to explain how the products of burning can affect our Earth.
Fossil fuels are a common energy resource and can be separated into coal, gas and oil. These are formed over millions of years, so they are non-renewable. They will not be replaced as quickly as they are used, and they are also finite. They are in limited supply. Now, how do we use fossil fuels? We utilise the energy stored in these fuels by burning them. And the use of these fuels has increased over time since the Industrial Revolution. So we have dramatically increased our use of these fossil fuels. Can you list some uses of fossil fuel? So travel is one of our main uses of fossil fuels. That could be planes, trains, automobiles, ships. Several of the components of crude oil are used as a fuel for travel. Cooking, we use methane in our gas ovens and our gas hobs, so quite often fossil fuels can be used for cooking. Coal can be used for barbecues. We do still use some fossil fuels for generating electricity. Whilst the amount of fossil fuels we use is reducing year by year, we still do use these as part of our electricity national grid supply. Some of us use fossil fuels for heating our homes, and fossil fuels are actually also used in the production of plastics. Now, there is lots of other uses of fossil fuels, but these are the more general ones. So you may say extracting metals does use heat, which would be generated typically by burning fossil fuels, but these are our more obvious ones. Now, you may remember from our previous lessons that combustion is a chemical reaction that occurs during burning. And we have provided you in the previous lessons with the following word equation, which is fuel plus oxygen forms carbon dioxide and water. But we have two questions we need to answer in the next section of this video. How do we know that carbon dioxide and water are what's formed? And what issues can they cause? And also, is there any other products that could form?
Now this is a demonstration that
Now this is a demonstration that can show you the products of combustion. So what I'm going to do shortly is I'm going to light these candles, which will be burning, which is combustion. The gases produced by the candles will be funneled through this tube into this U-tube. Now inside this U-tube is a chemical called anhydrous copper sulfate, and it is a white powder, and when it reacts with water it forms hydrated copper sulfate, which is a pale blue colour. So that will be testing to see if any water vapour is produced during this reaction. Then the gases will continue through this tube into this test tube, which is filled with a substance called lime water, which you may remember from previous topics is a substance used to test for carbon dioxide. And when carbon dioxide is bubbled through lime water, it will start to change colour and it will turn from colourless to cloudy. So now you can see that the candles are starting to burn, and they are burning, and the gases being produced are being pulled through these tubes, and in a few minutes we should start to see some bubbling occurring in this test tube over here, which shows us that those gases have made it all the way through those pipes. So I left this running for a little bit of time to make sure that all of our testing reagents had reacted. So first of all, you can see that the lime water has definitely turned cloudy, and that shows us that carbon dioxide was produced. But you can also see that the anhydrous copper sulfate has turned blue. So that tested for water, so we can see that water was formed too. So that shows us the products of combustion. So issue number 1, carbon dioxide is produced, and we saw that because of the lime water going cloudy. Now carbon dioxide is linked to global warming, and there are some consequences of global warming that can be quite devastating. First of all, we are losing habitats for some of our animals that live in colder climates because the ice caps are melting. This can also lead to rising sea levels, which means we can lose low level land, but it is mainly causing a loss of habitat for animals in those polar regions, such as polar bears. But alongside that, the temperature at our equator is increasing as well, which means some of our hotter areas are now becoming more uninhabitable due to the increased temperature in those areas. Now that can cause some mass migration because it's reducing the amount of livable land on the planet. So on the screen at the moment is a Bunsen burner. Now we can change the amount of air or oxygen into this flame by turning the air hole to make it open, and then we've got a blue flame, as you can see there, or I can close it and then I've got a yellow flame. Now you can see some different products of combustion when you change the amount of oxygen. So if I place this onto the blue flame, if I place this beaker over the top of that flame, you can see that there's been no product build-up. I can see possibly a little bit of steam where water's been produced, but no other products have built up on the surface. If I change this to a yellow flame has less oxygen in it, and actually as a consequence of that it is typically a cooler flame. But if I place my beaker over the top of my yellow Bunsen flame,
you can see that the colour of the glass is changing and that we have had some product build up on the outside of that beaker. Now that product is soot and it forms when there is not enough oxygen getting into my flame. So there I can see another product of combustion that is produced when there is not enough oxygen getting into that flame. So issue number 2, we don't always get carbon dioxide produced. There are 2 other carbon products that could be produced instead. We saw soot in the video, but there's another product that could be formed, which is carbon monoxide. Carbon monoxide is toxic and can cause carbon monoxide poisoning. There are several symptoms. Sickness, headache, dizziness and tiredness are all symptoms of carbon monoxide poisoning, and if that continues, it can be fatal. Soot can also form, as we saw around the outside of the beaker in the demonstration, and soot is linked to global dimming, which reduces the amount of light which can reach the surface of the Earth. So just to summarise some of the issues surrounding fossil fuel use. Fossil fuels are limited resources and they are non-renewable, which means they are not replaced as quickly as they are used. They take millions of years to form, which means we're not going to be able to get a fresh supply of them anytime soon. Carbon dioxide is produced during combustion, which is a cause of global warming, which has several devastating effects on our planet. If there's not enough oxygen during combustion, we get different products forming: carbon monoxide, which is toxic, and soot or carbon particulates, which causes global dimming. Now, I'd like you to have a go at a few of these questions. I'll give you some time to do so. I'd like you to give the word equation for combustion, give the effect of the pollutant carbon dioxide, give the effect of the pollutant carbon monoxide, and explain why our use of fossil fuels has increased over time. The word equation for combustion is fuel plus oxygen forms carbon dioxide and water. Carbon dioxide is linked to global warming as it's a greenhouse gas. Carbon monoxide is toxic. And our use of fossil fuels has increased because we use them for transport, generating electricity and heating homes. Now, due to our increased population, that means we need more of these resources. Now it's time for us to have a go at a practice question. The table below gives some information about 3 fuels that can be used in cars. A tick shows a substance is produced when the fuel burns, and a cross shows the substance is not produced when the fuel burns. So we can see that we have got three pollutants that we can compare alongside the state and the energy released by each fuel. And there are three fuels in the table: petrol, hydrogen and ethanol. Now your three questions for this slide are: which fuel releases the least energy? Some scientists say if hydrogen is burned as a fuel there will be less pollution. From the information in the table, give one reason why there will be less pollution. And which of the three fuels could be compressed into a small container? Which gas in the air is needed for fuels to burn? Question 2. This question is about three different fuels, A, B and C. Fuel A is stored in tanks. It is not stored under pressure and it flows along a pipe to where it is needed. Fuel B is stored under pressure in small cylinders and it's commonly used by campers. Fuel C can be stored in sacks or bags. Tick the correct box. Fuel A is a solid, liquid or gas, and then name a fuel which A could be. This question is still about the three fuels. Fuel B is stored in pressure in small cylinders and is used by campers. Fuel C can be stored in sacks or bags. Tick the correct box. When fuel B comes out of the cylinder, this is a solid, liquid or gas. And name a fuel which B could be. Continuing our question about the three fuels, fuel C can be stored in sacks or bags. Tick the correct box. Fuel C is a solid, liquid or gas. And name a fuel which C could be. Complete the statement to describe what happens when a fuel burns. Two waste products formed from burning fuels are blank and blank. So now it's time to check your answer. Petrol was the fuel that released the least energy. Hydrogen would be less pollution as there is no carbon dioxide being produced by that fuel. And of the three fuels in the table, hydrogen is the one that could be compressed as it is a gas. Oxygen is needed for fuels to burn. Question 2, fuel A is a liquid and it could be petrol, you could have named diesel, ethanol. Petrol's probably the one that would be most common. Part 2, fuel B is a gas as it could be compressed. And it could be natural gas, you may have named some, so propane or methane. Fuel C is a solid. Now you might have coal, you could also possibly have used wood. Coal, as this was mainly about fossil fuels, coal would be the most sensible of those answers. And the two waste products formed from burning are carbon dioxide and water. That's everything from me in this lesson, and I will see you soon.